Hi, this is Miriam Wortel, author of the book Lessons in Law of Attraction. I was inspired to create a video based off a lot of feedback I got from something that I'd posted on Instagram. It was something I posted in my stories last week about how our thoughts get sent out to other people. So in my book, I talk about how somehow, we as humans think it's perfectly normal for ants to send signals to one another using whatever, telepathy, vibrations, whatever you want to call it. But somehow we acknowledge that without speech, ants communicate with one another. And yet the idea of humans doing it, people think is really, really weird. And the fact of the matter is that our thoughts do extend past our own minds. Sorry for anyone that freaks out. It's just what happens. But what it happens is that it's not that the specific words of our thoughts go out, it's the tone of our thoughts that go out. From our mind to the subconscious mind of whoever we're thinking about. That's why a lot of times when you're thinking about someone and all of a sudden the phone rings, oh my God, I was just thinking about you. Guess what? This telepathy stuff is like text messages before there was text messages, right? And so that's something that I want to convey to people. You also have to be really, really careful. So what happens is that, the universe is always picking up on your signal. So aside from people overhearing it, energy overhears it, right? The cells of your body overhear it. The energy in your home overhears it. The energy of money overhears it, right? So if you're always saying things like, oh my God, money never comes to me easily, and I always have trouble paying my bills, and you're like all in a negative state with regard to your financial situation, then like literally, you're sending out a vibration, because that's what it is. We're sending out vibrations that people are picking up on. And, everything in this universe is made of energy. So all the people that would potentially circulate the money that may come your way, people you don't even know, are picking up on your vibration about like what you're thinking about money. Okay. So if you're wondering why, maybe you're not getting the jobs that you want to get, or, it could be, by the way, if someone's not getting a job because really something amazing is coming to you. So don't think it's like something negative that you're doing. It could be like something's not going through, something better can come through. So don't worry about that. But my point is, you want to be like conscientious of the fact that like you're always broadcasting stuff. Okay? You're always broadcasting something. And so I think a lot of people get from my content that, how we think about money is how money's going to show up to us, how we think about our health can be, how we're dealing with things, if we think about whether life is easy or not easy, how, whatever, because everything's energy. However we're thinking about something is how it's going to show back up to us. It's like a boomerang or a mirror, or however you want to think about it. Okay. But one of the biggest questions I got is, how does this affect people? And I would rather inspire people to test this out. Okay. Think of someone you generally, I don't want to say think of someone you don't like, but it's a little more fun if you do this. And you start thinking really nice thoughts about them. I kid you not, you're going to find someone who may have been so nasty turn out to be like the nicest person. But you have to do it authentically. Like, you actually have to change it in your own heart. Okay? You may have a couple where the wife is always, complaining in her head or to her friends. Oh my God, my husband never takes out the trash. He just never does anything to help me out, whatever it is. Start thinking of, I would tell like that woman, like this hypothetical woman, start thinking of your husband as taking out the trash. Just start thinking of him as someone who takes out the trash. Start visualizing him as someone who takes out the trash. And stop transmuting, stop putting out that energy of, the vibration of, and the thoughts of, he's not taking out the trash. If you just do it just for kicks and giggles, if you do it just to be funny, and by the way, when you do things in a playful way, oh my gosh, that's when you will see manifestation at its finest. When you have a sense of humor with things, and you say, okay, I'm not going to be angry, I'm not going to react, I'm not going to whatever, like, I'm just going to have fun with this. And you say, okay, well, this person is normally this way. I'm going to transmute energy. Transmute meaning you're sending a signal from your mind to theirs, okay? You're literally hitting their subconscious, because their subconscious is always picking up on their signal, on your signals, okay? Whatever fun things. Obviously, use this responsibly, okay? Please, use this responsibly. We don't need anyone doing anything crazy, all right? But for anyone who's had negative interpersonal relationships, obviously, look, focus on work within yourself first. That is always key, because sometimes when we have issues in relationships, it's because we are transmuting information, like we are sending out information negatively about ourselves. So if someone always feels like, oh my God, I'm never respected, or I never feel like I'm loved enough, even if you're not thinking directly about that person, like the people in your inner circle could potentially reflect that back to you. So it's not enough to just think about what you're transmitting or transmuting. Transmuting is a word they use often in the book Think and Grow Rich. I wasn't a fan of that book because I feel like they could have got to the point in a lot less time than they did. But again, this whole idea is it's not just about whatever word I'm using. Whatever thoughts you think, and you want that also to be accompanied by a feeling, because in other words, if you just think something but you're not actually having a positive feeling associated with it, you're not thinking positively. I say this all the time. If you want to really know if you're thinking positively, you need to actually feel a change where you're feeling a better energy. When you feel more positive emotions, you know you're doing something right. If you're still feeling negative, then you're lying to yourself when you're thinking positively. Okay, so try to, in the most authentic way that you can, in whatever way feels most natural to you, try this out. But again, be aware that it's not just what you think about a person. So let me give the example, a better example, about a relationship, right? So let's say you have a husband who, for lack of better terminology, is a good for nothing. Someone who's not helpful, who's just kind of wasting space, hard to deal with, hard to manage. The more you continue that story, even if that's how they're living their life, okay, what you broadcast affects how they show up to you. So they could be, to everyone else in their life, someone that's not their people's ideal preferred person, right? But how they show up to you is based off of your energy. So if you choose to look at that person differently and say, you know what, maybe this person, maybe their history was, you don't lie to yourself and say, oh, they're not really this. You say, maybe their history was, they've been this, and this. I believe that they can be. You say, I believe they can be someone who's different than what I've seen. I believe there's a possibility that they can show up in a better way. If you feel like you can't get so specific, because a lot of times when we get specific, we have resistance around it, right? We have negative beliefs and saying, oh, that's not going to happen. But if we get general and say, I believe there's a way they can actually act more positively, you're going to literally send them that energy, and that's how they're going to show that back to you, right? But so let's say in this example, you have a wife that is, transmitting that signal, that vibration of, yes, I understand up until this point, you've driven me nuts, you haven't been a help to the family and all these things, whatever else, I'm willing to forgive it and let it go, okay? By the way, I realized forgiveness is, I finally understood as of a couple weeks ago, why, or 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, why forgiveness is for us. It's because it really affects our vibration when we don't forgive. Okay, so hopefully that says a lot. But if we look at that concept of, saying, okay, the past was the past, here's a new moment, everything's a now moment. Now I want to think of my spouse as this type of person, right? This is what this woman would say. and would start to think of him in a positive way, but would have to legitimately feel it in her heart. Okay? And the other thing is, then there's the thoughts about herself. He may become more helpful, but let's say a part of the husband's character is that he was disrespectful. If part of her story about herself is, I never get the respect that I want, I feel like I'm always having to do everything myself, whatever cycling within her, she may still be manifesting those parts because those things are tied to her story about her. So in this example, the wife would have to say things like, it's possible for me to receive the respect I deserve and for me to be treated better, and I am worthy of feeling good and getting good treatment. I don't have to shout it from the rooftops, but I know in my heart that I feel that I'm someone that is worthy of, unconditional love and respect, and I do feel that it's coming to me, right? So you see how light and airy that feels compared to, oh my God, I never get respected, he's always driving me nuts, and all these things. So like I'm playing around with the tonality so you can hear it, but even in our tone of voice, there's different vibrations, right? So that also clues you in, right? So like, what are energies like when we're saying these types of things? And we want to go for that, not for that light and airy feeling. We're not pretending to be like on cloud nine or whatever it is. Like life can get kind of lifey, as I like to put it, right? And so I'm trying to add a sense of humor because a lot of us have been through a lot in various subjects, whether it's been relationships, health, money, business, whatever it may be. When you're able to be lighter about something, it really does change your vibration. You'll find that you're feeling better. So I'm doing this for that reason, that I'm being light about it. But in changing your story about yourself and the other person, that helps you to think more positively. You're consciously changing the narrative, right? And people will reflect it back to you because there's so much of us that we just we respond to unconsciously, right? And you kind of just have to test it out to say it. That's basically the only way I know how to say it. It's like, I've done this. I mean, here's an example of mine. Years ago, so one of my claims to fame is I've hung out with a lot of famous people. And at various events, I've met like charity events and networking events and whatever it is. Like that's been my thing, which is kind of like for fun. One of the things I just manifested and like to do, right? I've always been big on networking anyway, so that was just kind of my thing. So I've hung out and networked with a lot of famous people. And there was one time some years ago, I had an issue with, actually I did this twice in two very similar scenarios regarding someone famous. I had issues with I'll call it a gatekeeper, right? Because every famous person has a gatekeeper. And I decided in this first instance I'm talking about that I said, you know what, I'm going to think as positive thoughts I can about this person. I'm going to visualize him being happy to greet me, and instead of being rude to me like he was last time, because I was going to an event. I had met him previously at an event, and then I knew I was going to an event where I was going to run into him again. And I also wanted to speak to the person he helps manage and guard. And I said, I'm just going to think kind thoughts. And I wasn't faking it. I had to really change my inner feelings towards this person. And I said, okay, I want the past to be the past, that he's going to be happy to see me today. Doesn't matter how many times, whatever, if we had any issues in the past or times I tried to call him and if he didn't pick up his phone when I would try to make whatever connections to things, nothing in the past matters. I'm just going to have fun with this. And I'm deciding he's going to be happy to see me. And I'm thinking of him as someone who's going to be happy to see me. I walk into that event, he sees me, he greets me, okay, in a way that was like, hi, how are you? I'm sorry, I know you called me, I haven't gotten back to you, I've just been so busy. And I'm just like trying to hold back my laughter. Because I saw the power of that. Like, obviously, like, when I initially encountered this person, so basically what happened was, I initially encountered this person, he was like, so, whatever. He was okay. But I'd had a phone call with him where he was being really, really protective of his client. And I understood that and I respected that, but he was being like, the phone call I had with him was just like, intimidating and rude. You know what I mean? Like, that was just kind of the tone of the conversation, like, to the point that I was like, oh my God, like, do I need to like back off and not approach? Because I like connecting with cool people, and I happen to have his client's phone number, someone who was fairly well known. And I didn't feel like backing off. He literally told me to stay away from his client. Like, that was literally how bad it was. Okay. I felt nervous to put this out there publicly. And since then, he and I have a great relationship. I wasn't thinking anything negatively of him initially when I had that phone call with him. And maybe I can say it was just a bad day. But whatever it is that, you know, he and I now have a fine relationship because I make sure to think positive thoughts and send him positive energy, and that allows him to show up in my life in a positive way. And, you know, thank God we're fine now. And I had this with someone else, similar situation. The person was just, they were doing their job and being very guarded, or they were just kind of guarding the celebrity that they needed to guard. And the person was just very, like, I would say they were like stoic with me. They were just like, their energy was sort of uninviting. And like, that completely changed. I literally said, you know what, I'm going to call this person, I'm going to change my energy. And literally, like, it really worked. Obviously, you have to be in a place of calm. Like, if you're in a place of panic and dealing with the crisis at the moment, that's going to be a lot harder to try to change your energy about that. But when you can take a step back and say, you know what, I'm going to completely change my energy towards this person with a smile on my face and whatever it is. It's like, a person always has to reflect back to you what you are putting out. Okay, at least the majority of the time. It doesn't mean people can't have a bad day or whatever it is, but overall, like, people will respond to your energy. And I said, all the energy of the universe is going to respond to your energy. So it's so important that how we think about ourselves and our lives, that we're conscious of it. And a lot of us have been thinking negatively for a long time, so don't try to fix it all in one day. Okay? Pick little aspects and just, you know, find yourself, like, whatever negative thoughts you're thinking, just try to catch yourself and minimize it. So let's say you think 1,000 negative things in one day. Get it down to 800, then get it down to 600 or 700, right? And down to 500 things a day, then 100 things a day. And eventually you're going to start thinking more positively. So it's just a matter of decreasing the negative and trying to add in the positive. And as I put in my previous video, if you want to think of it like a snow globe, right? That, you know, when you shake up a snow globe, you're seeing those little artificial snowflakes happen, okay? Whatever you're shaking up, it's like you're activating. So do you want to activate positive thoughts or negative thoughts? And that's going to happen for every single thing in the universe, right? So however you think about a person, however you think about your life, however you think about money, however you think about health, that's how it's going to show up. So be careful what you shake up, because whatever you're putting out it's based directly off what you're thinking, and you know what you're thinking based off what you're feeling. Your feelings are your indicators. So you know if you're feeling positively, you're feeling some sense of relief, then that's what you're getting. I also want to say that there are going to be times that you could be feeling like a state of relief, and you could be feeling good, and sometimes you're going to encounter someone in a bad mood, or you're just going to have a bad day. There are sometimes times that those things just happen. I'd like to take those as a sign that there's just something else for you to clear, or sometimes it's like, I don't say a test, but it's more like in your process of clearing things out and changing your story, it's like, okay, someone comes up, and then you say, like, it's sort of like a test, not in like a dramatic way, or you want to look at a challenge of saying that, like, okay, yeah, I can react to this differently now because I really have changed, you know, my perspective on this. Make sense? So I hope that was helpful. And I said, don't try to fix it all in one day. Do have fun with this. Focus on beaming out positive thoughts. You can also do things for, like, you know, let's say that you have, you know, someone has a child that's struggling in school. You can think of them as doing better. If you see someone, you know, struggling with confidence, you can see them doing better. If you see someone who's in need of healing, oh my gosh, I feel like I should do a whole other recording just on that. Visualize them getting better. Think of them as someone who is getting better. It sends them that energy. How many times do we pray for people, by the way, and we're literally thinking about how sick they are? Let's be honest with ourselves, okay? So it's really important to think about how you want that person to show up, because whatever it is, you're sending them the energy. Now, with a person's energy, like if someone's sick and whatever else, that has to do with their own self. That's their own journey. But you can certainly help them in that process by sending them the energy of how they think about themselves, right? Everyone has their own journeys. You're not like completely changing their life or whatever it is. Like a person still has to, want to make changes from the inside out. And so I'm saying that not just with regard to health, obviously, right? And obviously there's things that happen health-wise that are no one's fault. But you know what I'm saying? In other words, but I'm saying some people have issues they have to work on from a behavioral standpoint. Some people have negative health issues, let's say, because they didn't take care of themselves or their bodies. Some people just deal with what seems like freak instances, which may or may not be from something like trapped emotions. But my point is you can send them that wellness energy by how you think about them. In other words, you're always sending people energy. It's just a conscious of like, what kind of package do you want to send? Like however you think about someone, that's the package that you are sending. Okay. But a person, like, one of the best things, like, let's say if you know someone who's unwell and you want to help them is, aside from how you think of them, also think of them as being willing to help themselves and then guide them on how to, change their own story, their own thoughts, release, whatever emotions they have to release, and that will help aid them in their healing, right? So the biggest power that we have is always the self-initiated power, but we most certainly can influence others. And that's why I'm hoping everyone will use this information for the good. Please, only for the good. I always am setting out these intentions that my videos are reaching people with a good heart who want to help themselves, who want to help the world, and want to make the world a better place. So this is the power that we have. God gave us more power than we were ever taught. And I think for a long time, like we were told, think good and it'll be good, right? That's been in the Jewish community, a phrase that's been said many times by the well-known Lubavitcher Rebbe. That was the rabbi of the Lubavitch Hasidic sect, and he got it from, drawing a blank on the name. There was someone also in that sect that he had gotten that from in the Hasidic realm, that he had gotten it from, that think good and it'll be good. But it's like, I tell people, if you want to just change it up a little, think good until you feel good, and then it's going to be good, right? So it's how we think about ourselves, it's how we think about others, it's how we think about situations as a whole. And there's nothing that we can't change through the power of thought and positive feeling, because God created us to be his helpers. And unfortunately, because I think a lot of people have been feeling powerless, we react to our circumstances, we react to people around us. There's all this fighting, and like some people, what, I'm trying to think how to say this, but like some people can really act like jerks to us. And so they really are jerks. Like sometimes like they don't know how to navigate their own emotions. They've been through a lot, and there's such a power in sending people love, even if you feel like they don't deserve it, honestly. You can literally help change a person just by doing that. But don't do it to try to control them, because if you feel like you have to do it, like if you have to send someone that much energy to control them, then that means there's something in you that you have to fix. Just being honest here. Okay. And I've had to do this work on myself where, like I realize like it's not just the thoughts I have to think about the people around me, but it's like, how am I thinking of myself and how am I identifying? And I probably should do another recording on, I just actually did an Instagram post on this, on, how we identify is the most important thing with regard to manifestation, because that's what really we call into us. So that is, in other words, because how we identify ourselves is our story, and that's what all of our thoughts are based around. Make sense? So, it's how we think about ourselves. So, like I was thinking about how I transmute, how I'm sending out these energies, these vibes about how I think about myself. And there are times, like many times in my life, that I just felt like, oh, I'm someone who's, not loved, or I'm second best, or, times I felt unheard. And like, I was like broadcasting that out. And that is not a pleasant thing to have manifest. But, I realized like I'm in charge of a broadcast, and I understand it takes time to fix my thoughts. So I'm not just thinking about sending nice thoughts to people that I love. And I do like to a lot of times think about the people in my life thriving and doing well and wishing them well and seeing good things happening. And I will spend some time to visualize and send thoughts and love to the people I care about. Absolutely. But I'm also realizing I need to do that for myself too, and to think about, okay, what energy about myself do I want to broadcast? And I can consciously say that, you know what, I'm someone that, you know, is liked and adored, is heard, and whatever I feel like I need in that current moment, and not in a forceful way, in a calm way. And that's the whole thing, is when you do it from a calm space, it's most effective. So don't try to react from like right after you have a bad day. That's like the word. This is not the time to do that. Do not do it then. But as I said, have fun with this. This was helpful. Would love to hear comments or feedback, and feel free to check out my book on Amazon. Again, the title is Lessons in Law of Attraction, and the easiest way to find it, you can search my last name, is Wartell, so Wartell. So in other words, okay, let me re-say that because I think I mumbled that. Wartell is how you spell my last name, so Miriam Wartell. And you can also find me on Instagram at Miriam Wartell Official, and looking forward to hearing from you and your thoughts on this. Thanks.